Everyday spirituality. That's what we've been talking about and we'll continue to talk about. We've embarked on this journey into everyday spirituality, finding the sacred in our daily lives and having the awareness to recognize the activity of spirit in and all around us. This is also referred to as spiritual literacy. And we've considered over this past week two spiritual tools to put into practice. We are practical Christianity, so we practice what we learn on Sunday to improve our lives. And if you're thinking, oops, forgot to do that, it's never too late. So the first one was upon awakening and before getting too far into the daily routine, acknowledging with authentic gratitude something. Brushing your teeth, your coffee or your tea, your bed, your bedding, your pet companion, your plants, the dishwasher or your sink, your amazing body, something ordinary that you would usually take for granted, and just take a moment and express internally gratitude for that. So that was our first spiritual tool last week, our love work. And the second was to set an alarm to go off at least once a day, to take a moment to notice something. Wherever you are, whatever you're doing, simply notice something with your heart open. And then seeing if that noticing blessed you in some way, if it changed your vibration, if it changed your energy. So these applications, these call to action, or what I call love work, they're an integral part of what we call unity. Putting into practice exercises and tools and rituals to increase our awareness of the divine and to help us live lives that we are absolutely always meant to live in harmony with others, blessing others. You've heard me say, you'll hear me say it again today, unity is not for the weak of heart. It's not for wussies. You don't get to simply check off the box, gone to church, done. For it's after church that our true work begins, our love work begins. You know, in some church communities, it begins simply by trying to maneuver out of the large parking lot. You've seen those cartoons. But the true work, if you want to call it that, the true practice is after we leave the space of where we feel safe and at peace and we're surrounded by our friends and we interact with our world beyond these walls. That is where we need our tools most. That is where the world needs us to be a space of love. As we bump into each other and we react and we respond internally or externally to misunderstandings or conflicts, disagreements, disharmony. Which brings us back to spiritual literacy, finding the sacred, the activity of spirit everywhere, even within, perhaps especially within those reactions, those misunderstandings, and those conflicts with others, or perhaps that conflict is within ourselves. Spiritual literacy is integral to the practice of the world's religions. Now, we might identify as Christian or not, but we do not believe that finding the sacred in the everyday is limited to any one faith tradition or any way of living and being. Now, many of us can remember perhaps when, as children, we heard the message in Sunday school that only those who found Jesus could enter heaven. Was that a message that you heard? Well, for many of us as children, we found that difficult to comprehend. What about other people? What about little children even who never heard of Jesus? They don't get to go to heaven? What about children who live in remote areas like villages in Africa? They were excluded. That may have been our first red flag to what we were hearing. Well, Christianity does not have a corner market on the sacred. We're in finding the sacred in everyday living. So let's do this. Do this with me. Spread out your hands. Spread out your hands, palms up, fingers spread apart. Okay. The different religions or approaches to life are like the fingers on your hand. They're separate and they're quite distinctive from one another. Each one is different. And you can trace each finger to the source. The source of all the fingers is the palm, the same source for all the fingers, or deeper still, up your arm and into your heart, the same source. Another way to look at the different faith traditions is by seeing God or universal love or all that is as an underground river of wisdom and love with many wells springing from it. And those different wells springing up are different faith traditions. And even though they're coming from the same source, by whatever name we give it, they are expressing through the sand and the stone and whatever they need to go through to reach the top that filters that source. Well, the authors of the book that I've been using as my touchstone for this series by Frederick and Marianne Broussat state that spiritual literacy is not concerned with sorting out religious dogmas and beliefs. That by seeing and recognizing the sacred everywhere, even within other faith traditions, we become more comfortable with the different images of and titles for and metaphors for God. We don't find the need to personally bristle at the sight of the Madonna or the cross, symbols that are not used in unity, or by hearing the word him or he or father when referring to God. These symbols or these words that are used do not need to be sacred to us necessarily, to still be seen as sacred to others, and letting that be okay without judgment, always without judgment. Now, here at Unity, we pride ourselves in being inclusive. And at the same time, we do our very best to present a message that is consistent throughout our Sunday service. So forgive us if we don't always recognize the phrasing in a song. Sometimes we slip in a he or a him or a father because it's in the song. We're also mindful of things like music rights, where we can't just change someone else's words at our whim to fit our belief system. That's kind of what Unity used to do years ago. But now we have Empower Music that was formed to organize New Thought musicians for us. And we have lots of choices within our belief framework. And we try to use those most of all to sing on Sunday so that our message to you is consistent. Now, earlier this year in January, several of us attended an orientation and a training that was organized by the Tara Mandala Key West Buddhist Sangha. They were hosting members of the Drepung Gomang monks who were coming to St. Paul's Episcopal Church. The monks were going to be creating one of their beautiful sand mandalas, and we were being trained as volunteers to serve as guides or docents for people coming in to see them. So let me repeat that. 5 Unitics, 5 of us from Unity, trained to volunteer with Buddhist monks who are going to create a sand mandala at an Episcopal church. That's right. It confused others as well. I would be there to greet people and hear sometimes people saying, what are Buddhist monks doing in an Episcopal church? And I would swell up with pride when a member of the local Sangha would say, yes, and we have volunteers here from the Unity Church. I would sometimes reply with, Here in Key West, we truly are one human family, and we support one another. Being able to see the sacred everywhere and honor it, even within another's faith tradition. That is a beautiful thing, and it expands our heart and opens us to greater acceptance and inclusion. Judaism emphasizes taking ordinary ordinary experiences, perhaps expenses, and making them holy. Islam urges believers to look for signs of God's activity in everything going on around them. Hinduism encourages recognizing manifestations of the divine in an enlightened person, a cow, a plant, even a small object. And Buddhist masters the world over have helped practitioners regard the routines of daily life, from walking to cooking, as essential spiritual practices. That's what mindfulness is all about, being mindful, being present to what is. Thich Nhat Hanh has been famously quoted as saying, "You wash the dishes to wash the dishes," paying attention to whatever is in any given moment and recognizing the sacred, for the activity of spirit is everywhere, everywhere. Each of us as individuals are different expressions of our spiritual self. And when we join with others, even when it's not in our minds that spirit is at work, the sacred is active and present. Now, people come together for a variety of reasons: classes and workshops, prayer groups, book studies. People come together at 10:30 on Sunday morning for our prayer group here at Unity. They get together for mastermind groups, to volunteer with all sorts of things, to help young people read, to do yoga, to be a part of 12-step groups of all types, for A Course in Miracles, for full moon bike rides. They join together to paint rocks, to attend a finance team or board meeting, to create a sand sculpture, a peace sign at the beach, to decorate a float, to walk in the Pride Parade, to gather together to plug on Friday mornings. That's right, picking up trash. It can feel sacred, very sacred, protecting our planet, cleaning up our world, not allowing a cigarette butt to end up in our ocean. It is truly sacred. And we're joining together with others who are holding that same intention. Each time we join with another, we can feel and we can see, if we choose to look, the sacred at work. Every time, every day, truly, every moment. So what if we set the intention to look for the activity of spirit before we came together, before we painted rocks, before we went on the full moon bike ride, before we did yoga, to look for the activity of spirit? What if we reminded ourselves, even during the gathering, to pause for a moment and watch for the sacred? We would find it every time. Every time. Remember, the sacred is not only in the harmony, but also within the disharmony. For there is no place that God is not. And you can set your mind to find it where you know it will be. There are places we know it will be: at the sunrise, at the sunset, at the Butterfly Museum, at an art museum, someplace with soothing music, at a church. And it is everywhere. That is spiritual literacy, finding it everywhere, between the sunrise and the sunset, finding it outside these walls. To embrace the world, believing that it is full of meaning, overflowing with the sacred, with sacred activity, alive and at work. Peter Mayer is a singer and a songwriter, and he won an Empower Music Award for his song, Holy Now. And Chris is going to perform it for us later this morning. Well, in the song, Peter is speaking about being a young boy who was told about the miracles in the Bible. And he's feeling sad that miracles occurred then in ancient times, but not now. And through the song, he comes to realize that everything is a miracle. You'll hear the lyrics say, wine from water is not so small. An even better magic trick is anything is here at all. So the challenging thing becomes not to look for miracles, but finding where there isn't one. Now, my favorite lines from the song are, this morning outside I stood, saw a little red-winged bird, shining like a burning bush and singing like a scripture verse. Made me want to bow my head. I remember when church let out, how things have changed since then, because everything is holy now. Those bring tears to my eyes every time, and I consider that a good thing. So during the offertory this morning, I want you to listen to that song and let it carry you through the week. Pull it up on your phone and listen to it again and again. It's Peter Mayer, Holy Now. And the love work for this week is a new twist to a familiar spiritual tool, a gratitude journal. We've practiced this before, where we list 10 things that we're grateful for just before we retire for the evening. And we do it at night if we can, because it really puts us in that space of a nice, restful sleep. I like doing the gratitude journal, I truly do. But for this month, for the next 28 days, let's try something different. Before you complete your day, if you can, or whenever works for you, write down one thing only that you are grateful for. Just one thing, and then don't repeat it for the next 28 days. Then list the reasons that you are grateful for this one thing. Exhaust all the rationale that you can think of around why this is something important and precious to you and why you are grateful for it in your life. Perhaps you write down your job, whatever it might be that you do for work. Then you list all the reasons you can think of that you're grateful for your job. Well, I have the opportunity to connect with people in meaningful ways. I have a lot of freedom in my work. I love the people I work with. I get to express my creativity in my work. I earn money that helps me pay for my living expenses. My job takes me out of the house and into the world. I meet lots of great people. Sometimes I get to use my spiritual tools when dealing with difficult situations. So my job allows me to practice my tools. And then the next day I get to practice them again, making me an expert with that spiritual tool. Then maybe the next day you write down your church. Then list the reasons you're grateful for your church. We have great music. The people are friendly and caring. It is comfortable to be here. All my friends are here. I like the minister. I enjoy the meditations. There's refreshments after the service. You get something out of the Sunday lesson or out of the meditation or out of a song. You love to see the children. You often hear about other activities, events, or projects that you're interested in. You're happy that we do things for the community at large. Your soul feels fed, whatever those things might be for you. Acknowledge the various reasons why the thing you listed is something that you are truly grateful for. And you know I don't assign these things out without trying them first myself, or at least joining you in doing them. So I've been trying this approach this past week and found that by elaborating as to the why I am grateful for something, it deepens and clarifies my appreciation even more. I am grateful for you, and I so appreciate this beautiful, beloved community. We're going to prepare now for our time of moving into meditation, this sacred time that we give to ourselves. It's a gift that we give to ourselves as we allow ourselves to turn within, to move from our heads to our heart space, to settle into our seats, becoming comfortable, closing your eyes if you're comfortable doing that, or gazing softly at something before you as the music leads us into this time, into the meditation.
There is more than enough in a universe that you created. There is more than enough on a planet of sacred design. There is more than enough for humanity made in your image. Why would I worry? Why would I doubt? Why would I ever think I'd go without? Your infinite love made me, made everything I see, and all that will ever be is your infinite love. Let my soul know the truth, whatever I choose to do. Your infinite love will prove more than enough.
We breathe that in, those beautiful words that we have within us, the divine wisdom and love, more than enough to see the sacred within ourselves and the world around us. That we are infinite love. That we are infinite light. That we possess within us the wisdom of the ages, the divine guidance, more than we will ever need. When we breathe in this awareness, allow it to fill our hearts. Allow your mind to embrace, I am infinite love. I am divine light. I am divinely guided. And I know there is more than enough in this world. And feeling this in my heart frees me to open my heart to others, to recognize the divine that they are, to see the activity of spirit everywhere around me, in my life, moment to moment, day to day, in harmony, in the misunderstandings, in the joy, in the loss. I hold this in my heart now, knowing this infinite love is always present, for it is the I am of who I am, this infinite love and light, as I rest in the silence, Now gently and gradually, I allow myself to return to the awareness of this beautiful space, to carry this experience in my heart, to allow it to imprint upon my mind the knowing, the absolute knowing that I am infinite love. Infinite love is my source. Infinite love is my truth. And that the activity of spirit is all around me as well as within me. There is no place that God is not. And so it is.